People don't see me. You know, people reach their limit with how much they can hear about the situation. After that, they want you to do something about it. So instead of relying on other people to create a podcast, create your own podcast. It's not that difficult to do, you know. And instead of waiting for sponsorships to happen, create merch. You know, there's so many things she could be doing, and I love that she started that lounge. I love that she started that because that's proof of it. But she can do more. And the thing about Bethany, people can say what they want about her. Publicly, I'm not a fan of her. I'm not a fan of the fact that she supported Chrissy Teigen. But there's one thing you cannot say about Bethany, and it's that she's lazy and she waits for other people to do things for her. And that's a big factor in why she's able to say the things she says. So, hi everyone, welcome back to No Light Time. My name is Holly. So grateful to have you all. So I'm going to get right into the reading. Please like, subscribe. You know, a lot of you, say 60% of you watch my videos and you're unsubscribed, so please subscribe. It really helps the channel. Okay, so I am doing some membership videos. So if you're interested in becoming a member, check out the membership tab. If you want to request a video, I take members' requests first. If you have a butterfly next to your name, I'll 100% make a video. I am doing a Learn Tarot course every week. I post a video about learning how to read tarot. That's also just for my members, so check that out. Okay, so I'm labeling this called cancelled. People who are being cancelled, and what the energy is, what I see for the future, and so forth. I just want to correct something because I just saw this before I started recording. And I did a video about Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, an update. And I did say that I saw her not paying him. I completely apologized about that. I misread the energy. I am very aware that she paid him, but she's withholding something from him. And I think that's an apology. So I will clarify that soon. I just wanted to get on here and let everybody know. I will have timestamps for this video. First, I'm doing Nene Leakes, then I'm doing Doja Cat, and the last one I'm doing is Ariana Grande. So, all those that are being cancelled at this moment. So, I did, as those of you know that consistently watch my videos, I absolutely love Real Housewives. I love reality TV. I always have, and people used to laugh at me and judge me. I tend to, in my regular life, I do very serious things. So I love reality TV because it gets my mind off of just serious things. I've had a lot of serious jobs, and so I feel like it's given me a release. I also think a lot of celebrities take themselves too seriously, so I like to watch people that don't, and it's just fun, you know. And one of my first favorite reality shows was actually The Hills. That's what really got me, and Big Brother. But The Hills really got me into reality TV. And after that, The City, then I watched the Kardashians for a bit, but the Real Housewives I've always consistently watched. I stopped watching it for like a few months when I lived in LA, but other than that, I've consistently watched. I usually watch Real Housewives when I do my hair once a week. So I have, like I said, always been a Real Housewives fan. Always been an Atlanta fan. That was like the #1 show that I started watching, Real Housewives. Season 1, actually. I remember I used to go to my friend's house every Sunday night and watch it. It used to have so much fun. But I'm only saying that because I feel like one of the biggest pioneers in reality TV has been Nene Leakes. And I think she deserves, and I did a video about her when I only did this on Instagram. If you don't know this about my channel, I started it after I used to do these videos on Instagram once a week, and they did really well, so it motivated me to start a channel. So with that being said, I strongly feel like there's this energy behind Nene, and she's let it go now. But I did a reading on her 3 years ago on my Instagram page, and I said that I felt like Nene Leakes, if you don't know who she is, she's the Real Housewives of Atlanta star. I think she was the longest running housewife of Atlanta, the most memorable. All those gifts that we used to see of her, like just iconic phrases. And I really miss watching her on it. I stopped watching after she left. I think a lot of people did, because I feel like Bravo did her wrong. I'm not saying anything against Bravo, I'm just voicing my opinion. But I really think I would hope to see that she returns in some aspect to reality TV. And I just saw her do an interview with Carlos King. Carlos King is a producer, executive producer of some reality shows. He also says that he loved The Hills, and that's what got him into reality TV. I promise you guys, I used to love The Hills. Like, I was obsessed with it, absolutely obsessed. I'd run home, and this time I had cable, living in Brooklyn, and I'd run home and would just be like, oh gosh, I have to watch. I used to work at this cafe in the morning. Right after work, I would run home and watch The Hills, and watch reruns over and over again. So, and he says the same thing. So he's very talented. I love his energy. So I just want to see, after watching some of that interview, where her future is headed. Will she still be cancelled? And I think, if you don't know this, she got, I believe, cancelled after she made an RAPE joke, and I believe it was 2016. That's when things really, I feel like, went south for her. She is a Sun and Sagittarius, and a lot of Sun and Sagittarius are not really good at taking accountability. They'll often put the blame on other people. They have great qualities. I'm not just saying that's the only thing. Especially female Sagittarius, Sun and Sagittarius, they can be very manipulative and blame other people instead of taking accountability themselves. A lot of people can do that, but I've seen it mostly in Sagittarius. So, I want to pull her energy. I'm pulling 3 cards. Past, present, future. To really get into this energy and what will happen moving forward. Like I said, I'm putting up timestamps, so stay tuned for that. Okay, I'm using the Good Tarot too by Colette Baron Reed. Love this tarot deck. It was actually one of my first tarot decks when I restarted reading tarot that I bought. Okay. Okie dokie. So this deck uses different elements. So swords are air, earth are pentacles, water are cups, and what's the last one? Oh yeah, fire is wands. Okay, so I love them too. They're also a lot bigger than regular cards. I've been thinking about designs because I have a tarot deck coming out, 2 tarots coming out that I've designed. I'm just looking for printers and funding right now, but I've been thinking about, do I want a bigger card, do I want a smaller card? So please let me know in the comment section what your opinion is if you read tarot too. So with her past being 8 of air, I see very strongly here that she has this, she kind of ruled, and you see here, I just got this image of her like telling people what to do. Sun and Sagittarius make great leaders, great leaders. I think sometimes though the downside to that is that they can think that they're above everybody, and everybody else around them feels like, wait, why does this person think that they're all that when they're human like me, And I get that energy. I feel like in the Housewives, she was surrounded by people that used to feel like she put herself on a pedestal that she didn't really deserve to be on. Sun and Sagittarius do that a lot, Nicki Minaj does that very frequently. She has to remind everybody. And I feel like if you have to remind people constantly what you've done, it's not necessarily bragging, but I don't think if you really felt you're worthy, you need to say it all the time, you know. So that's just how I feel. But anyway, so the present being the moon, which is about releasing. I think she's releasing a lot. You see with this card, I don't know if you can see here, but she's releasing. She's sitting on the moon and she's releasing. And this is also the card associated with Pisces. If you want to learn more about tarot, I do have that membership about tarot, reading tarot. But what I find about it, I feel very strongly the energy of her releasing ties, releasing grudges. And you know, she said, I was actually watching the interview before I started this, because I love to watch interviews. I think that's, other than reality TV, I love to watch interviews because I'm a very fiction based, like a true word, very fiction based. I love fiction. Excuse me, I like non-fiction. I always confuse those two. I like non-fiction, so I like to live in the realm of reality and logic. So I saw her say that she is a Sagittarius and she doesn't hold grudges. And let me tell you something, I know a lot of Sagittarius and they hold grudges and they'll be like, I don't have to hold a grudge. Meanwhile, they do. So I strongly believe she does hold grudges. And I think she's held a grudge between her and Andy for some time. It's interesting because Andy is a Gemini, sign of Gemini. And I actually want to do a reading about them versus each other. But Geminis can definitely hold a grudge too, but they're opposite signs. But they have a lot in common, but a lot not in common. And something that I think that they have in common is that they can hold grudges. I've seen Sagittarius hold grudges. Personally, I've seen it in public. I've seen it, and in the public, excuse me. And they'll be like, I'm not holding a grudge, but it's like, no, you are. I think we're all capable of holding grudges, you know. And sometimes it's necessary. I think sometimes it becomes unhealthy if we continually bash somebody in the public or constantly think about it, and you know, it becomes, you know, Death Becomes Her, that movie, that kind of energy where it becomes us, you know. But it's okay sometimes to hold a grudge that is in the form of a boundary, because you don't want anything to do with that person, you know. And I always say this, I had this Sagittarius best friend growing up. She would say to me, you hold grudges, and I would tell her, no, I don't. It's just that I don't, or maybe people see that as a grudge, but I don't want anything to do with somebody past a certain point. So yeah, that's just putting that out there. So I think people are like, oh yeah, let's move on, let's be BFFs, but you can't move on. There's certain things people do to each other that you can't move on past that. And I think sometimes Sun and Sagittarius struggle to see that. So she's releasing a lot, letting go of things, actually doing the work. Because I did say in my reading I did a long time about her, that she needs to be honest with herself and face reality about how she's contributed to situations. You know, I think that's just in general our biggest demise. It is generally a shadow side of Sagittarius, but with all of us, once we look in the mirror and we accept how we have contributed to everything and anything, it changes the power we give to others. So with the future being 6 of water, I see her also letting go. And you know, she compares herself a lot to Bethany. And I will say this, I met Bethany Frankel. She was on Real Housewives of New York for a long time. I think she's an OG. I never watched it actually while it was running. I only started watching it later, in the later seasons, say 11, 12, 13. And I met Bethany. She came to a restaurant I used to work at. She was very, very sweet. Like, incredibly sweet. I was stunned because I had seen in the media so many horrible things. And that's the thing, when I meet somebody famous or anybody in general that has been in the public, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of stories in the media are not true that I've seen. So I had seen things and I was like, you know, let me just be like, treat her as if I hadn't heard anything about her. She was very, very sweet. Her daughter, I think her daughter's Bryn, her name is Bryn or something like that. Starts with a B, definitely. And she was very small. She was running around and she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, because she was running in front of me. And I was like, it's okay. She was like, I'm so embarrassed, my daughter's acting up. And I was like, she's a child, it's okay, it's not the end of the world, But I think she comes from the generation, and I come, well, not necessarily a generation, but just from the schooling of in public, which can also be, now that I think about it, it can also be very toxic in the way that it's like, in public you behave yourself at all times, but in private, you do whatever you want. But she was just like, my child should be better behaved. And I said, yeah, but it's not anything. I mean, I've seen kids do crazy things. And of all those kids, she was the best behaved. So she was very, very sweet. And I see Nene comparing herself a lot to Bethany. And I think she does that because clearly their races are different. But I think it's less about race and it's more about what city you're in and what you're doing on the side. Now, I don't want to say racism doesn't exist, because obviously I'm black, I've experienced racism, I know it exists. And on the other side, if you're white, you've probably experienced racism. Asian, you've experienced racism. We can all experience racism. I do, however, not think that the Bethany versus Nene argument helps her, because she always makes it about race. And there's so many other contributing factors, to a situation. And I think with Nene, her blaming it constantly on race is making people judge her and not give her the benefit of the doubt. It's like Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj does the same thing too. They're actually very similar. Not just that they're some Sagittarius, but just the way they behave. And for me, I think Bethany has been a huge impact on Real Housewives too. But also, Bethany started Skinny Girl. She did other things on the side. She didn't wait for other people to do it for her. I'm telling you that story because I feel like Nene should do the same. She should stop, and that's a New Yorker thing, Bethany, I'm a fellow New Yorker, even though I don't sound like it. My heart definitely belongs in New York. I am at heart very New Yorker, very entrepreneurial spirit, very hard work driven, very honest, that's just how we are. And instead of waiting for other people to do it, we do it ourselves. And highly encouraging Nene to do that. Stop all the talking she's doing around other this, other that. People want to see me. People reach their limit with how much they can hear about the situation. After that, they want you to do something about it. So instead of relying on other people to create a podcast, create your own podcast. It's not that difficult to do, And instead of waiting for sponsorships to happen, create merch. There's so many things she could be doing, and I love that she started that lounge. I love that she started that because that's proof of it. But she can do more. And the thing about Bethany, people can say what they want about her. Publicly, I'm not a fan of her. I'm not a fan of the fact that she supported Chrissy Teigen. But there's one thing you cannot say about Bethany, and it's that she's lazy and she waits for other people to do things for her. And that's a big factor in why she's able to say the things she says. So, with the general energy being 10 of Pentacles, I see lots in the works financially for Nene. But she needs to learn not to give people so much power over her future. So, that's what I have for you guys. Please let me know what you think. Like I said, I have timestamps at the bottom. I'm going to move on to the second cancelled, quote-unquote cancelled person, which is Doja Cat. So, a lot of you have been writing to me. In fact, yesterday I got lots of comments and messages saying, please do Doja Cat, she seems to be losing it. And I say this, it's so funny because, okay, like a year and a half ago, I did a reading. At the same time, I did a reading on Gigi, Doja Cat, and somebody else. And I thought the person that wrote it had some connection to Gigi. I could just tell energetically that it was somebody who was either a celebrity or speaking on behalf of one, like the person was in their personal life. And at the time, I thought it could be related to Gigi. And then I saw Doja Cat like going after people on the internet, and I was like, maybe it was her. I don't want to speculate. I'm just thinking that she wrote a whole lot. I had to delete it. It was very vile and very rude, actually. This person, I don't usually take things like that personally, but I deleted it because it came from like a place of venom, you know. And I'm seeing that side of Doja Cat too. I'm not saying she did it, but it's just reminding me of that. So people have been saying she's been saying horrible things about her fans. So let's see. Okay. So I did do an update when she was pursuing that guy. By the way, I'm using the Sears Light Tarot, the Light Sears Tarot, excuse me. The Light Sears Tarot by Chris Ann. I love this deck. I really love this deck. I love all my decks, really. I'm so grateful. Some more than others. I use this one the most, I would say. This one and the Moonchild Tarot I use the most. And the Good Tarot, excuse me. So I saw here that when I did the reading on her before, I did it like almost a year ago, and I said that this is when she was pursuing that guy from Euphoria. I believe it was Euphoria. That British guy, Joseph something, and she was going after him, and then she went after the kid. And I predicted an unraveling. I can't remember how long I predicted it, but I said she would be cancelled. She would be in a lot of trouble till she learned to humble herself. And she is the Sun in Libra. And it's funny, I just did Sun and Sagittarius, Nene Leakes. Sun and Libra, Sun and Sagittarius are very similar. Very similar in that they can often have temper problems. They can often live in denial. And they can often see things about others that they need to change, but within themselves, they think that they don't need to change anything. So I pulled her past, present, and future. And with the past, I get 2 of Cups. I see here that there's a relationship, and she has a tendency. I pictured this before when I did a reading about her, and I said that her father leaving her when she was very young had a huge stain on her, and trust me, I can relate. It's not easy to go through circumstances like that. But I did say at some point she needs to forgive her father because she's going to go through a lot of emotional torment. And I think when she's in relationships, she's reminded of her abandonment issues, and she doesn't know how to deal with them, so she takes it out on people, on things, and I think she gets a bit irate. I think with her upbringing, her mother raised her in a very bratty way to kind of make up for the fact that the father was not there, and she basically gave her everything she wanted. I don't think there were many rules in the household. I think her mother was very liberal in that aspect. I do think that she should have a conversation with her father, and if he's willing, if he's open to speaking to her, and really tell him how she feels, because she's going to be telling everybody else how she feels. She's going to be overreacting about certain circumstances because she really wants to tell him the truth, you know. And trust me, parental situations are not easy, you know. I think especially older generations having kids so young really blinded a lot of them, and I'm not saying any of them did a bad job. I'm just saying that they didn't do it as good of a job as they could have if they were more mature. That's one of the reasons why I waited to have children, because I don't want to just have children and then raise them not being a mature person. I want to have known enough about myself and life to raise healthy children. So I strongly see she needs to have some kind of forgiveness, write a letter to her dad, something like that, but it's definitely come from her dad's side. And then when she's in a relationship, she gets they'll leave or something like that, and she becomes irate. So I'm telling you, there's something going on in her relationship. So with Six of Wands, which is the card of the eye being on you and fame, she was always destined for fame, you know. And her dad was actually a famous actor. I've said this before. He was on a very famous TV show in South Africa. Yeah, very, very famous. I was actually an extra on that show a long time ago. I can't remember if it's that show or another show, but I was an extra on, I think, that show actually, when I was a teenager. It was called Yizo Yizo. So with Six of Wands, there's something, she was destined for fame, you know, with her looks, her personality. It was kind of like written in the cards that she was going to be famous. You know, some people, it's just the way that it is. But, and I think she always knew that, but her always knowing that kind of gave her the sense of superiority, like, I'm going to be famous. You know, like, if people were mean to her, she would say back, like, I'm going to be famous, or like, have this attitude. And I can actually see it now coming through, that when I'm famous, nobody can tell me what to do. When I'm famous, nobody can tell me this. When I'm famous, you regret saying that, you know. So she has this energy of when I'm famous. And now that she is famous, she's doing all the things she said when she was famous she would do, you know. So with the future being Knight of Swords, I see a lot of people around her running for the hills. You know, this guy's literally running. You can see that. I see her, a lot of people around her coming out saying, having allegations about her, saying she was verbally abusive, that kind of stuff, like very mean, nasty, so forth and so forth. And yeah, just not, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was true, honestly. But I do see people coming out and saying, she was like this to me, she was like that. In fact, I see actually this boyfriend later coming out and saying, she was horrible, she was this, she was that. So the general energy being Three of Wands, I see her having to really look at herself. This is funny because her energy is very similar. I'm not saying she's capable of doing the same things, but her energy is very similar to Ezra Miller, and they're both Sun and Libras, where something's going to happen to her that she's going to reach almost like her boiling point and take a step back from fame. She's going to be forced to. Going to be forced to. So that's what I have for you. Let's move on. Please like, comment, subscribe. Last one's Ariana Grande. And yeah, I did a reading about her. She said she's going to change her physical features. I said her and this guy will not work out, Dalton. I said that he's too serious for her, and she's going to take herself very seriously, and it's going to be good for her in the beginning, but then she's going to leave. So let's see what's going on. I think that they have been living separate lives for quite some time, but it's difficult being with an actor. You know, I've been with an actor before, and it's very difficult. Not necessarily because of them, but because they have to travel a lot. You know, they have to, you see things on tabloids and stuff like that. So I understand where Dalton is coming from. Also, just a side note, people were like, oh yeah, he looks like her new boyfriend, Ariana Grande, who's the married one, looks like her brother Frankie. And I actually, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I share an acquaintance with Frankie, and I used to see him a lot in LA, and we used to do Soul Cycle in the same Soul Cycle studio. And yeah, he's a lot of fun, lots of energy, lots of fun, good energy, very good energy. I don't think that her boyfriend looks like him, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, just a side note. Okay, so I'm putting her past, present, and future. And I'm using for this the Star Child Tarot by Danielle Noel. Really beautiful deck. Yeah, so let's get into it. Past, Seven of Swords. Ooh, okay, so Sun and Cancers, man. The curse, I always say the curse of Cancer is being in relationships that are either very toxic or feeling like abandonment all the time. So with Seven of Swords, I see that very strongly, that there is one relationship she had that left her feeling very abandoned, and I think it's one of them where he left her. I think she's often the one leaving, but this one, he left her. And since he left her, she feels very inadequate and insecure. I think it was Big Sean. Whoa. I would highly recommend therapy for Ariana Grande. Highly recommend it. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with her. I just see a lot of pain in her past that any normal person would need therapy for, you know. So at the present, being Six of Crystals, she is very focused on making money right now, and I think because they're in the same movie together, it kind of aligns with her. I think that during COVID, it was a hard time for her financially and emotionally, like a lot of us. And I think because of that, she kind of leaned on her soon-to-be ex-husband a lot. Because she leaned on him so much, he wasn't, I believe he's a Sun in Capricorn from what I remember, but he doesn't have the emotional capacity to deal with her, you know, if that makes any sense. So that's why she's now going the opposite, where she's dating an artist, because he's, you know, very business, very facts, very like, if she, for example, if she went to him and said, you made me feel like this, he'd be like, I don't make anybody feel a certain way, you know. And I'm not saying he's Sun in Capricorn, I get Sun in Capricorn energy, so he could be Mirror in Capricorn, but he has definitely Capricorn rising, something strong Capricorn in his chart. And what I found, my longest relationship was with the Capricorn, okay, and I was very young when we met, and and he was a lot older than I am, but something about him, he was very good at manipulating me and kind of putting things on me constantly. And something that I realized when we broke up is that I contributed to the relationship too. It's literally half and half. And when I would say, hey, I feel like this, he would put it all on me. It was always my fault, you know. And I get the similar energy with this too, with this Dalton guy, is that everything's her fault. You know, she's like, if she tries to speak up and says, hey, I feel like I'm upset because of what you said, you know, he would be like, no, that's not what I said, or something like that, you know. I think he's very like two-dimensional. So I think she found comfort in this guy, and I wouldn't necessarily think, I think things with the guy have been, and his soon-to-be ex-wife, have been separate for quite some time. They haven't had any emotional feelings for each other. And maybe I should do a reading about that too. But I definitely feel like there's more beyond the surface. And I encourage people to not get so irate and emotional about other people's stories, you know. They can learn from it. But this casting stones on other people, I'm not a fan of. So with 10 of Crystals being the future, she's definitely going to be working on finances, getting her money in order, so forth and so forth. I even think, especially because she's going to have to split it, she's going to have to rebuild her finances again. I don't think that they have a prenup. That's just what I can see. I don't think they have a prenup. So with her general energy being Page of Wands, she's going to learn a lot about herself in the next 5 years. I don't see her and this guy staying together. They'll stay together for another 1 or 2 years. She's got a trend of 2 years, except for Pete Doherty. But I really think the ex that left her is Big Sean. I don't know the story about them, but I definitely see he left an imprint on her, and she's afraid to really get close. So I'd highly recommend and encourage her to get therapy. And I think water signs, Sun in Cancer, Sun in Pisces, Sun in Scorpio, I encourage them to get therapy because they need to speak out their emotions, because they're very emotional people. Not everybody's like that, but them specifically, so that they can have somebody else understand their feelings with them, because that's really what a lot of them need. So that's what I have for you. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned for more videos. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Take care.